Ever try sending like a huge video and then bam, your internet just decides to quit on you? It's the worst, especially when you're staring at that progress bar like, come on, and you just know you're going to have to start the whole thing over again. Well, today we're talking about something that just might make those upload nightmares a thing of the past. It's called Sporitus, and it's changing the way we think about file uploads. Now, I know the word protocol might sound a little intimidating, but stick with me. This is actually pretty fascinating stuff, and it has some big implications for how we use the internet every day. Basically, Sporitus makes uploads smoother, it makes them more reliable, and way less likely to make you want to pull your hair out. To break it down for us and help us understand why Storitus is such a game changer, we've got our expert here. So, what exactly is Storitus?
It's kind of, remember those old cassette tapes where you could pause a song and come back later? Datasys basically brings that same idea to the digital world, but for your files.
Okay, so it's about picking up where you left off, even if something interrupts the upload. That's pretty cool. Our source for this deep dive, a developer named Sachin Sachdeva, who's actually implemented Statavis, talks about how it works by breaking large files into smaller pieces. So is that part of the secret sauce here?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about breaking those files down into smaller, more manageable chunks. And then here's where it gets really clever. Each of those chunks gets a unique identifier. So if, for example, the internet cuts out mid-upload, the server knows exactly which pieces it's already received, and it can just pick up from there once the connection is back.
So no more starting from scratch every time there's a hiccup. I can see why that would be a game changer, especially for anyone working with large files. Like imagine uploading an entire movie. That could take hours. But with Litus, even if the internet drops out a few times during the process, you don't lose all your progress. That's got to be a huge relief.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about saving time and frustration. It also means that uploads are more likely to finish successfully.
So it's more reliable and more user-friendly. What's not to love? Now, I'm curious, we've been talking about those huge files like movies, but this isn't just for people uploading massive amounts of data, is it? I mean, could this be working behind the scenes in our everyday online activities and we don't even realize it?
You're exactly right. It's everywhere. Think about all those times you've uploaded a video to YouTube, shared photos online, or even just sent a large attachment in an email. There's a good chance Litus was working behind the scenes to make that process smoother and more reliable for you.
Wow, so it's like this hidden gem of the internet making our lives easier without us even knowing it. That's pretty cool. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look at how this whole thing actually works. Because we've only scratched the surface here. So stick with us after the break. We'll be right back with more on the magic of Trigatus. So before the break, we were talking about how Trigatus breaks down files into these smaller chunks for upload, almost like a digital jigsaw puzzle. But how do those pieces actually find their way back together again?
Well, it's all about those unique identifiers we talked about. Think of it like each chunk has its own little shipping label, so the server knows exactly where it goes and what to do with it. And if a few pieces get lost along the way, no problem. Titus can just resend those missing chunks without affecting the rest of the upload.
Okay, that makes sense, but I'm curious, what about the actual transfer process? Does Ketis use some sort of special connection or something?
Not really, actually.
Mhm.
It actually relies on the same HTTP protocol that we use for pretty much everything online.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Titus takes that standard protocol and adds a little extra something, a few extra headers, to tell the server, hey, this is a Titus upload, and here's how far we've gotten.
So it's like adding a little sticky note to the package, letting the server know it needs to handle things a little differently.
Exactly, and a clever way to build on existing technology without having to reinvent the wheel.
And that probably makes it easier for developers to integrate Sedatus into their own projects, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there are even dedicated libraries and tools available to help with that, which is something that Sachin touched on in his article.
So it's not just some theoretical concept, it's actually quite practical and accessible for developers to use.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why Stratus has gained so much traction. It's relatively straightforward to implement, and the benefits are clear.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want more reliable, more efficient file uploads? It just makes sense. Speaking of sense, I'm starting to see why Sachin found Sodus so valuable for his audio analytics platform. He was dealing with these massive audio files, way bigger than your average cat video. So how did the Sodus help him tackle that challenge?
Well, for starters, Pete's has helped him avoid those dreaded upload failures that can happen when you're dealing with such large files. Imagine waiting hours for an upload to finish, only to have it fail at the 99% mark. Talk about frustrating.
Oh, I can only imagine. So Pitas basically eliminated that risk for him.
Pretty much. It made the whole process much more robust and reliable, which is essential when you're dealing with critical data.
Right, because if you're running a business or a platform that relies on these large file uploads, you can't afford to have those uploads failing all the time. It would be a disaster.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding failures, it's also about providing a better user experience.
Because nobody wants to be stuck waiting for hours on end for an upload to finish. It's all about making our digital lives smoother and less stressful.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what Chattis brings to the table. It's funny, we keep coming back to this idea of Chattis making our digital lives smoother. And I think that's really at the heart of what makes this technology so significant.
It's like it just fades into the background, doing its job quietly and efficiently. We don't really think about it until it's not there. And then suddenly we're reminded of how frustrating those upload failures can be.
Exactly. It's one of those things you take for granted until it goes wrong.
And what's amazing is that Chattis doesn't just stop at resuming interrupted uploads. Sachin mentions in his article some pretty advanced features, like these things called checksums. They sound kind of technical, but it sounds like they add another layer of reliability to the whole process.
They do. Checksums are like built-in error detection systems. They make sure that the data you upload arrives exactly as it was originally sent, without any corruption or errors along the way.
So it's like having a guarantee that your files are safe and sound throughout the entire journey. That's pretty reassuring, especially when you're talking about important documents or precious memories captured in those photos and videos.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it highlights how Ritus isn't just about speed and efficiency. It's also about ensuring data integrity,
Yeah.
which is becoming increasingly crucial in our digital world.
It really makes you think. As we share more and more of our lives online, we need technologies like Ritus to keep everything running smoothly, because the last thing anyone wants is to lose those precious files or have them arrive corrupted.
Exactly. And as we move towards a future of even larger files, even faster internet speeds, the role of Devitis is only going to become more vital.
It's like laying the groundwork for a seamless digital experience, where file uploads are no longer something we have to worry about, they just work.
Exactly. And that's a future I can definitely get behind.
Me too. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Dirtis, I keep coming back to this one question. It's something Sachin hinted at in his article, and it really got me thinking. As file uploads become even more central to our digital lives, how else might technologies like Dirtis shape the way we interact with data and with each other? It's a big question, but it's one worth pondering, because as we've seen today, even the most technical innovations can have far-reaching implications for our digital future. So that's something to chew on. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those uploads smooth.